Good morning. All right, I think the time is 10:01, and we'll call the, what is this, November meeting of the Texas Real Estate Commission to order. Thank you all for being here. We got, I guess we'll start off here with some pledges, the Texas Pledge and the U.S. Pledge. So I have a volunteer. Lee, is that? I understand that may be you.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, thank you. All right, it looks like everyone is here and accounted for, so we don't have to consider any absences for the commissioners, and so that's a good thing. We have a new commissioner with us today. That would be Scott Olgeen, and he comes to us with a world of experience that I think is going to be a great benefit to us. So, Scott, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it, and I'm honored to be serving.
Great. So now, just a little housekeeping item. There is continuing ed credit for this meeting, up to 4 hours. You must stay for the entire meeting, and of course, you must have signed in out front. So if there's anybody out there that's looking for CE credit, please make sure you sign in and sign out as appropriate. Now, we'll have a workshop that will start after the commission meeting, probably around 1 o'clock, and it's upstairs, and of course, public's invited to that if you're interested. Now, I want to start with some appointments that have been made. So on your agenda, the appointments to the Education Standards Advisory Committee. So those are licensed. Now, these will be 2-year terms, and they begin January 1, 26, okay? So these were recommended by the selection committee, and so we're happy to announce that the license holder members will be Alicia Austin, Mitch Rainey, and Carl Leatherman, which is a reappointment, and then Kirsten Crawford will be the alternate. So very happy to have those folks involved. The education members will be Byron Underwood, reappointment, and Cindy Bass, reappointment, and Diane Moore as an alternative. So the public member will be Roxy Glenn. So very happy to have those folks there. Now, I'm going to need a motion to approve these recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you. Welcome to our new members there. Now we have some appointments to the Texas Real Estate Inspector Committee. And these will be also folks that were, recommended by the selection committee. Inspector members will be Mike Morgan, which is a reappointment, and Greg House, and then Shannon Gatewood as an alternative. These members serve 6-year terms, unless you're Lee Warren, in which case you serve 13 years, but beginning January 1st, 2026. The public members will be Natalie Manzanares and Peter Charles, and these are 2-year terms beginning January of 26. So I'll need a motion to approve those.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, second? Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. So welcome to the new group on the Texas Real Estate Inspector Committee. Now, we want to recognize some folks that have invested a lot of time, energy into really making us better at TREC through their work on these committees. So first off, the Education Advisory Committee, ESAC by another name. Those folks that will be departing will be ESAC member, public member Rita Blevins, who she is here?
Yep.
Oh, there she is. I didn't see you earlier. Oh, so you were late. Okay. No. I've known Rita for about 25 years. So anyway, I took a little liberty at that. Well, thank you very much for your work, Rita, and we appreciate it. We have a little something for you here. All right. Thank you for all your work, and thank you for being here this morning. That's very nice. Okay, and then Mandy Nichols is a license holder member. I don't believe Mandy's with us. Appreciate her work. And Cassie Scott is license holder member. Is she in person? I don't think we've seen her either. Okay, great. Well, anyway, thank you all very much, the three of you who are coming off. I think it's hard for a lot of folks to recognize how much work these folks put into, really helping us get better. And that's our goal around here. And the fact that that's a way that you can get involved in TREC and make a difference, right? And a lot of people have taken advantage of that. So thank you. Now, we have a departing member, a couple of members here, from the Real Estate Inspector Group. And I mentioned earlier Lee Warren, after 13 years of service, which he explained to me earlier how that happened, which was sort of an oddity. But in any event, I can't tell you how much Lee has contributed in a positive way, Lee, to what we're doing around here. And we were joking about it earlier. And so, you'll be missed, to be sure, although you probably won't miss us that much because, you'll be able to make a little more money and spend time in your business. So very much appreciated, you as the chair, and thank you. Then we have also departing after a term, Teresa Benavides, public member, and Ed Muth. So thank you all for your work and service on behalf of the Texas Real Estate Commission. Okay, now we're going to jump around a little bit here on the agenda. Not unusual if you come to these things that we, have some folks we want to maybe move up on the agenda in the interest of their time and whatnot. So we're going to go to item 27 on your agenda, or our agenda here. And we're going to get the annual report, from Texas A&M Real Estate Center. And she is with us in person right here again. And we really appreciate Pamela, you being here with the Pamela Cannon. Yes. So
Yeah,
thank you very
thank you
much.
so much.
Executive Director, by the way, of the Texas Real Estate Commission. So thank you.
I am delighted to be here. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners, Director, and staff, and guests. I always appreciate coming to this meeting. And of course, I'm here to give an annual report, which I love to talk about the center, only second maybe to my family. We publish an annual report every year. And I brought some copies here. If you have a few minutes you want to spend looking at that, I'll tell you what's inside in case you don't get to that. We did have a very productive year. The center was very busy. We had a research team of 8 who completed 17 projects this year. It included macroeconomic studies, housing prices, housing choice, single and multifamily housing, manufactured housing, AI and commercial real estate space, industrial, retail, legal issues, policy, and lots more. And those 17 projects resulted in 17 original articles distributed to over 200,000 people, 54 monthly, quarterly, and annual reports, 12 columns, 74 blog posts, 27 videos, 16 articles produced with 7 collaborators outside of the center. And we made 68 presentations to over 8,000 people in 24 Texas cities. 9 of the projects that we originally had on the board are continuing into this year. One of those that came forward was part of our first themed edition of our journal, the Tierra Grande, and we wrote it on the state of water in Texas. So some of you may have seen it. I did bring a few extra copies of that as well. It was an enormous collaborative effort and something that we've never done before at the center, so we're pretty proud and excited about it. We addressed this really important topic that we felt was that mattered to everyone who lives in the state. Whether you're a realtor or citizen, a policymaker, there was something in there for you. Our communications team has expanded and developed our social media and website efforts, and we hosted the largest land conference ever this past April. We also responded to the legislature for 6 requests to give testimony during this session. And we continue to provide monthly data analysis to over 150,000 Texas realtors through their market viewer portal. And of course, we responded to many individual requests. And I could go on. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing. I look forward to what we're doing next. Our economic forecast will be delivered in January. What our researchers are studying and projecting what 2026 will look like. And we're including in that something new. Columns from 4 researchers around the state will be contributing their insights regarding their region. And so we look forward to bringing you that. And in the summer, we're going to release the next themed issue of the journal where we're going to look strictly at the state of housing in Texas. And that work is going to be expanded and will become part of a first launch, probably September, October timeframe, that will be the annual housing report that we intend to become an industry standard for housing information and data. And we constantly keep in mind how we are serving the industry, looking for new ways, how can we be better at our work so that you can be better at yours. So it's a great delight to be here and tell you that summary, but I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
I would just say we are so fortunate to have this relationship with the center. I don't know that there's another one out like that. I'm not aware of it. I will tell you that, like that water article that you just held up there, I mean, I wait, I mean, you get so much information, but the ones that you really pay attention to, I know in my business, is Tierra Grande when it shows up, and the website with all the information. I mean, we're just, as a state, so lucky to have that information available. It helps, again, everyone, as you described, as stakeholders. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that as well. So
I appreciate that. We would certainly echo those comments. We certainly appreciate and value the relationship.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, I agree with Commissioner Woodruff. If you're a Texas realtor, Texas real estate licensee, and you haven't read this water issue, you are doing yourself a disservice and your clients a disservice by not reading it. It's really phenomenal. And then I jokingly call it the greatest tool nobody knows about, but Market Viewer is just such an amazing tool for our licensees.
Thank you so much.
for all the hard work you do.
Absolutely. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we appreciate all you all do. So agenda item 28 will be Executive Director Chelsea Buckholz to talk about our MOU.
Yes, well, very timely. Good morning. This agenda item, item 28, is to approve changes in an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, between TREC and the Real Estate Center at Texas A&M University, what we refer to as the Center. The Center is the nation's largest publicly funded organization devoted to real estate research. Center's staff conducts research on financial, socioeconomic, public policy, trade, legal, land use, local market analysis issues, all related to real estate. So their work supports the entire real estate community in Texas and really far beyond, and is unlike anything else across the country. We are lucky to have them in Texas. So this long-standing MOU that's before you today, which we believe has been in an existence for decades, like the 80s or 90s, is intended to memorialize the relationship we have, TREC has, with the center, how we collaborate and share information, as well as to note the passage of funding to the center as directed by statute. So this MOU does not reflect the entire work of the center. Their work goes far beyond what this MOU reflects, but it is before you today to approve the changes intended to reflect our current needs for collaboration with the center. I'm happy to go into specifics of the changes we made, but otherwise, if you have reviewed that and see how we've just simplified it, and it's pretty simple in nature, I recommend that you approve these MOU changes.
Move its approval.
Second.
Okay, great. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Looking forward to continuing this successful relationship. Okay, so we're going to go to item number 30 now, along the lines of continuing to play number Scrabble with this. But anyway, that will be a presentation by Pearson VUE regarding the administration of licensing examinations for real estate holders, license holders. So,
Good morning, Chair Woodruff, commissioners, and welcome, Commissioner Olguin. It's nice to have you here. Jennifer Wheeler, Director of Education. I'm just going to introduce Carrie Dahl. She is the Business Development Manager for Pearson VUE. Pearson VUE is our contracted licensing exam vendor, and she comes once a year to provide an annual kind of an overview for you. And so, without further ado, Carrie Dahl.
good morning.
Thank you for having me back. It's really good to be here. I love this city. It's great. We've put together some slides to do a recap and show you what's going on with exams, content development for those exams, testing, etc. So I'll just, yep, there we go. Okay, we're going to start with the content development itself because Texas has worked really pretty tightly with our content development team this year. There's been a lot going on. So a bit about the national or general portion of our exam, and this covers all the states that are with Pearson VUE. So the national and general portion is shared, but there's been a lot going on with this. A few years ago in 2023, we launched a national JTA, which is a job task analysis. And we go out to all of the states, commissions, real estate individuals, people that are in the industry, subject matter experts. And we ask them, we put out a big survey, what is going on? What do you see in the market? How are things changing, et cetera? So that was in May of 2023. And then in October, we put all of that together and we started digging through it. In April of 2025, that launched with Texas, the new national exam. And October, it is officially done, ongoing virtual reviews for development items and to generate new content. So now that we're in November, that's in the past and we're gonna move forward. A little bit about the review summary and highlights. We have a lot of numbers in here for exam questions, new questions, et cetera. We had a lot of revalidated questions, pre-test items revalidated and revised, state test development summary, 1,459 approved items revalidated. There's some really nice numbers on here if you want to take a minute after this is done, and I will make sure that we can get this out to you. Yeah, we're really excited about that. And you can jump. And this is our state portion. This is where Texas really shines. You've put a lot of work into this year. In August of this year, SME fileless independent review training was conducted. And then we move into September, the external SMEs conducted a review of the well-performing items and flagged for in-person review. And there's a typo here, it's actually October 25, which just happened again, we're just past this, in-person test development review for inspectors and real estate exams. And then these will be going live in January of 2026. Again, there's some really nice numbers in here. Broker sales items revalidated, 321 of 385, deleted, revised, new, created, and added test not practice questions, but the ones that we put in to get them validated and make sure that we're having the best possible questions out there, and they are not counted on the exam. They are simply taken, and then we take a look at how those perform in the market. Inspectors, test development review summary, again, revalidated, deleted, revised, added. It's been a heavy lift, and both our content development team as well as Texas has done a phenomenal job. And I'll get you to switch. And the Texas inspectors is a little bit different. We don't write that content. That is done through the National Home Inspector Exam by NHIE. So while I can't speak to the content development for this, we do deliver these exams. And you'll see later on our top 10 locations within the state that those exams are offered. And I'll have you switch. I love this map so much. This map is unique within the country. You, I believe, have the largest number of exam locations in the United States, over 200. 29 of those are Pearson owned and operated, where they only offer exams that Pearson VUE works with. 197 partner sites throughout the state, pretty well covered. The big cities have quite a few. We did list them down on the side because we're running out of pins. It's such a beautiful map. We also have 5 military government sites that are open to individuals that are either current in the forces or their families. So if they have access to a base, they would be allowed to take this in place of that. Jump ahead. Okay. So the testing volume by location that I just referred to, out of the over 200 sites, these are the top 10 sites. The volume by location for real estate sales and brokers looks a little bit different than inspectors, but these are the top 10. And just something to point out, our push for the third-party test centers within Texas has been very effective because of these top 10, they are all third-party exam sites. We have, again, I think it was 29 Pearson owned and operated, but these are the ones that are most frequently used and most convenient for your constituents or your candidates. And then we can jump one more. And this is the real estate and professional inspectors. Number one, the exam quantity is less, so the breakdown looks a little bit different. But again, these are third-party centers. They are the ones that we have put into place with recommendations from you, recommendations from staff, and our internal process of validating and running all the third-party centers through for security, accuracy, et cetera. So it's really an interesting, it's an interesting thing to look at. So with the Pearson Professional Centers, we do have quite a few of them. And I would like to, at this point, offer anybody a site tour the next time I'm in town. We'd love to show you what one of those Pearson Professional Centers looks like and walk you through that process. So just let me know. I'll work through Jen and Chelsea. Okay. Candidate handbooks. This is, I know I say this a lot, it's the Bible of the exam. So this is where you learn about what is in the exam, what the process is, how to register, what the fees are, exam procedures as far as what it will look like when you check into a test center site. This is the this is available to everybody. It's at a PDF form on our website. And what you have up here is August 2024, which is current. And then in June, or January, not June, in January when those new exams are released, this will be updated to January of 2026. Texas Real Estate Inspectors is up as well. They are both available on the Texas landing page at pearson.com, sorry. At pearson.com, if you go in and search Texas, you'll find Texas Real Estate. This will pop up. I actually refer to this quite a bit when I'm speaking with people on the phone, and I go in the same way everybody goes in, because this is always the most updated version. Okay, this is a little bit about the candidate journey. What does this look like for scheduling, delivering these exams? And we have two business rules that may vary, but the business rules for Texas, there's two options for scheduling. Website is 24/7. We do have a contact center open that you can call into. And I do want to make the point that the individual gets the same access to registration as anyone in our contact center. So if the individual is on the Pearson View or the Pearson.com website, they're able to take a look at every opportunity in all of these different locations for them to sit for the exam. If they call in for assistance, the individual that they're speaking to has access to the exact same list that they do. So there's really a benefit, but we are always there for questions and to kind of walk people through the process. Confirmation, reschedule, cancellation notices are always sent to the email on file once they've created basically their profile with Pearson, and they go back and forth with that detail. So that email address is always the main contact for anything changes, cancellations, reminders, etc. 2 forms of ID must be presented at check-in. The first being a legal ID with a photo. The second one can be signature, doesn't need to have a photo, but 2 are required. Candidates will leave the test center with their results in hand. I think this is one of the notable benefits. When you are in a test center, you do not have to worry about closing out. Did you pass the exam? Is it not? How did you do? Etc. So you will know if you pass and you have a sheet to confirm that. And if you do not pass, I'll have you jump to the next one. There we go. If you do not pass, one more, 2 more. There it is. Okay. So on the left is your passing sheet. This is if you pass, you're good to go. You have some reference numbers on the bottom so that people can check your license, or not license, but the test result that you had. And on the right-hand side, this is what you see if you do not pass. So it's very helpful for the candidate where if they do not pass, here is where you need to focus, where you need to take a look back, do some more studying, dig into that information. And again, at the bottom, there are unique numbers that are specific to this candidate and this exam, and those can be verified. I thought this was a little higher up, so if you could jump back a few. This one. One more down. There we go. So this is what it looks like in an exam day. And when I'm inviting you to a Pearson Professional Test Center tour, this is very similar to what you're going to see. Everything is cookie cutter to a certain degree. The color of the walls, the color of the carpet, the type of desks that they're sitting at. Those are all consistent. Art on the walls, lockers for their belongings. And if you want to jump forward, again, the 2 forms of ID, the 2 forms of ID are important. One, again, has to match your photo ID and the signature on the second. They will sign in, they have their photo taken so that that matches and the record is available. They sign in, they are given a specific sheet that goes through everything that they should be doing. Are they guaranteeing their honesty? Are they moving through this process? All of the legal caveats of this. And once that's done, we do have them sign for that. We prefer that an individual come about 15 minutes early to go through this process, but we do take them at the time scheduled. Jump forward. Yes, this is the interesting part. So this is a big part of how we are dealing with security in the test center. So we do not touch the candidate in any way, shape, or form, but we do have them go through a self-check. For instance, patting themselves down, checking their pockets, turning those out. We have a dish that your glasses will go on that we can spin. This is becoming more and more important as AI, as well as, is it the Google glasses, I believe? Those are starting to come into play a bit, and we've had a few of those in the test center. So when we go through those glasses and spin them around, we make absolutely sure that that's not allowed into the test center itself. We also have the helpful resources for test takers, Pearson View, that will give them a really good idea. They'll go through a video. They'll be able to see what this looks like. It's a great spot for any candidate, and we will have the live link on this for you as well. Yep, go. So we've already talked about the score reports, and those, again, are available upon completion. And with the numbers on the bottom, they're a little hard to see, but the lowest line on that gives an exam ID and a code so that you can pull that up either for yourself or for somebody that you're working with, colleagues, etc. I'll have you jump forward. And this is what that site looks like. Anybody can get to this site, but the numbers, the registration number, validation are unique to not just the person, but to that exact exam. And jump forward. So these are live links. So I will send these out. I'll get them to you through this process, but this is what the links are for sales and brokers. This is what the link is for inspectors. And that's the exact same path I take internally to find all the information, because those, again, are the most updated pieces of information. Jump ahead. So this we talked about very briefly last year, because I think it was going live the week that I was here presenting. This has been very successful. With this, it's an AI tool. It's those frequently asked questions that we talk with our call centers. We do the digging into what are people looking to do? What are they asking? What are the most prevalent concerns for an individual taking this? So we took that all together, and we have our frequently asked or our jump to questions, and these are being expanded as we speak. So we're rolling this out to other states. You guys were one of our first states to try it, so thank you. It's been very successful. But they are both available 24/7. You're not reliant on an actual individual to answer your question, and you can always get to that chat or the individual by phone number at a later time. Let me jump. That's it. Outside of having things a little bit of different order, apologize for that. Yeah, I'd love to open it up for questions. Please let me know. Anything right off the top?
Questions, comments?
I have a question for you. In any of the states where you work, do you tell the applicant what questions they missed? I realize, at least I'm under the understanding, Texas, if I miss 3 questions, it just says you missed 3 questions, but it doesn't tell you which questions you missed.
So 2 different things to that. If you pass, you will not know the questions or how many that you got wrong, right? But if you do not pass that exam, it won't tell you the exact questions, but it will show you the portion of the content outline that you should go back and review, where you need the additional work. We do not, under any circumstances, allow live exam questions. This is part of the security. Once those questions get out into the world, it's a lot like the internet. They show up and they're there forever, even if you can't see them. So that's a security issue for us. But we do absolutely let the candidate know, you need to spend a little bit more time on this portion of the content outline, this portion, we do detail that out without giving the exact questions.
Thank you.
Do you know what our current pass rate is on the first time for broker, like salespeople, et cetera?
We do. I don't have that on the presentation at this point. Chelsea, would you know?
Well, I could ask, but no, I was just curious what our pass rates were. First time pass rate. I do not have that off the top of my head, but we can find out. Yeah. Well. Okay. I was just sitting here thinking about it. I said, well, I wonder, because this is quite an improved process from when some of us went through it. And,
yeah, it is.
It's quite something. So, okay.
I actually have it in my computer at the back of this room.
Okay.
So
Well, it was not a pressing thing, just something as I was.
Well, it's it's absolutely interesting. And when we go through our annual account reviews with TREC, we have all of that detail lined up for this year and the previous 2 years, so that you can do a year-by-year comparison and see what's going on in the market. So between Jen and I, we can absolutely get this to you.
Yeah, that's fine. I can catch up with her on that. That's no big deal. But thank you very much for the presentation. And
Absolutely.
any more questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks for the opportunity. Good to see you all.
Okay, so we're going to move to staff reports and committee reports, and so maybe I'll jump in here with the executive committee report, because I didn't talk about it earlier. Or is it later in the agenda? I don't think. It's later? Okay, I'll take that back. And I'll just start with the number 7, which is the Education Standards Advisory Committee, and I know Bill is here, so Bill Stedman, the chair, please.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner and Chair, or other commissioners, thank you. The Education Standards and Advisory Committee met on October 6th, and we began by welcoming new committee member Jean Mitchell. She'll take Candy Loonsman's place after her move to the Broker Lawyer Committee. We're also grateful for Candy's contributions to ESAC, but are excited to welcome Jean. Next, we talked about updates from the staff regarding the upcoming advances and efficiencies of the new REAM portal that's anticipated to bring. The REAM portal will streamline and simplify the way education providers do business with TREC by transitioning all paper applications to the online portal. Required documents and materials will be uploaded through REAM rather than mailed or emailed. Payments will be accepted online via credit card, and staff has indicated that they'll increase online phone providers and email support during the transition period to assist education providers as they get to know the system. A key portion of the October meeting focused on Senate Bill 1968, which becomes effective January 1st. In part, this bill shifts authority for setting initial sales agent education requirements from the state statute to commission rulemaking. Currently, the Texas Occupations Code outlines the education topics that must be included in qualifying pre-licensing courses. The structure has made adapting to industry's changes more difficult, and since updates require legislative action. The committee discussed potential to make Texas's pre-licensed education more consistent and adaptable, particularly for applicants relocating from other states. ESAC will explore the idea of a standalone Texas-specific course, which could allow more flexibility in accepting equivalent coursework from other states while still ensuring all licensees learn key Texas content. The Commission's license exam vendor will perform a job task analysis for Texas within the year. This review, conducted by subject matter experts and psychometricians, will identify the most relevant knowledge and skills needed to enter the real estate profession. The result of this job analysis will help inform recommendations to changes in pre-licensing course content and general education requirements. The next ESAC meeting is scheduled for January 12th, 2026 at TREC headquarters, and I'm happy to take any questions.
You have a lot going on there. That's great. Thank you.
Brian, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Agenda item number 8 would be the report by the Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee, and Director of Licensing Denise Sample will give that report. Denise?
Good morning, Chair Woodruff and Commissioners, and welcome, Commissioner Olguin. It's good to see you. I will be presenting the Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee report on behalf of the committee chair, Ty Williams. And the Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee, or BRAC, met on October 15th and reviewed public comments received in response to changes proposed to TREC Rule 535.56, Education and Experience Requirements for a Broker License. Those were proposed at the August meeting. The recommendation, as a reminder, includes doubling the experience points required to earn a broker's license from 360 to 720, and limiting the bachelor's degree credit to 300 hours of real estate-related education. The current 900 education hours required to become a licensed broker would remain the same. In addition, the changes allow up to 300 hours of the 630 hours of real estate-related education to be substituted for experience points earned above the minimum points required for a license. They changed the property management experience calculation to a per property per year model instead of just per property, and modify the brokerage management delegated supervisor calculation to a points per transaction model. Currently, full credit for the 630 hours of real estate-related education is given for a bachelor's degree. Applicants must also have at least 4 years of active experience during the 5 years preceding the application, totaling 360 experience points. After reviewing the comments received, the committee recommends the commission adopt the changes as proposed, which will be presented later in today's agenda. The committee then discussed potential issues with transaction coordinators and showing agents performing services for multiple brokerages. The conversation will continue at their next meeting. The committee also discussed concerns about agents not completing the information about brokerage services form in its entirety and whether it leads to confusion for consumers about who to contact in a transaction. It recommended the agency provide more education about completing the IABS form to license holders. And that concludes my report.
Great. Any questions? Okay, thank you, Denise. Okay, agenda item number 9 would be the Inspector Committee report. And Chair Lee Warren, is this your last report for us?
Good morning. The Inspector Advisory Committee met on October 13th here at TREC in Austin. The SOP subcommittee revealed their first draft of the proposed standards of practice changes. The subcommittee has been working on the review of this entire set of SOPs for almost 2 years now. There were a number of small changes that were mostly non-substantive. However, one of the proposals is to move 3 sections of the report that currently fall under the appliance section to the HVAC section, as the systems in questions fall more under that category of ventilation, both mechanical and otherwise. There was some good discussion regarding this, as in the proposed format, it may be confusing to consumers as well as some other concerns. And as a result of this possible change, it would also require a new standard inspection report form as well. The form and the SOPs were sent back to the subcommittee to consider the feedback and some other potential options. The first set of actual proposed SOP changes, including possible report form change, will likely be proposed to you guys at the January meeting. On the other proposed change to the SOP is to require that inspectors maintain the inspection reports in a readily available format for at least 4 years after the completion of the inspection. This is to ensure that the availability of the report timeframe will coincide with the statute of limitations for filing a complaint. The committee did propose pre-licensure education change to address when the 40-hour practicum can be performed. That's also known as the ride-alongs. Previously, there was no rule that stipulated when the practicum could be done. As a result, there have been some instances where the student would attempt to begin the practicum prior to completing any of the coursework needed to perform the actual inspections as part of that practicum. In an effort to ensure that the practicum is done after the coursework is completed, a rule has been proposed for you all later for your consideration. There was also discussion about the reciprocity of licensure between Texas and other states. Licensing division discussed that although this does not happen often, they address these requests on a case-by-case basis. Some of the consideration is based on the state that the inspector is coming from and what requirements are for licensure in that state, if any. Whether that inspector has passed the national portion of the exam is also another factor that is considered. On a side note, this was my last official meeting as a member of the Inspector Committee after 13 years. I just want to take a moment to thank all the commissioners, past and present, and TREC staff for the hard work that they have put in over the years. I would like to show my appreciation for all the current and past members of the Inspector Committee over the years that volunteer their time away from their businesses and their families to try and make our industry better. I have been honored to have served on the committee for quite some time, and I'm proud of what we have all accomplished in that time, but it could not have been done without the vast number of people that rarely get recognized for the efforts that they put in. I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to serve, and I look forward to being involved in the future. And our next meeting is January 20th. And with that, any questions?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, Lee, again, thank you for the service. I don't know that I've ever been to a TREC meeting where Lee Warren wasn't there. So it's going to be weird.
That's right. Yeah.
Number two, you mentioned something. Is there not anything in SOP right now about keeping reports?
Not, I don't think it's actually in there. It's kind of a unwritten rule that we keep them, which is why we wanted to specifically put it in there to make sure that they are bound to doing that. Because typically when a complaint is filed or anything like that, TREC will send out a notice to that inspector, hey, send us all the documentation, information request, And this is just to ensure that you now make sure that you have to have that information, just to make sure everything's right in line. It's kind of like the practicum. We didn't feel that when all this started, that we had to tell you, you have to do your coursework before you do the ride-alongs. But apparently we do. So we just crossing the T's and dotting the I's.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Lee. Okay, moving on to item number 10, which would be the report of the Broker Lawyer Committee. And we have General Counsel Abby Lee to present that to us.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm pleased to present Agenda Item 10 to you, which is the report from the Texas Real Estate Broker Lawyer Committee. They last met on October 10th. They discussed public comments received on the proposed contract form changes. And they also received information on the need for additional changes, in particular one related to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network or FinCEN rules related to, it's a reporting requirement related to money laundering, essentially. Because the committee desires to make some additional changes to the contract forms in light of the comments received and also the additional information received, the committee is actually going to recommend withdrawing for now the proposed contract changes to the forms with some exceptions. You'll see the two residential, temporary residential leases and the landlord flood notice a little bit later. They anticipate having those proposed changes back before you for your consideration very soon. So you'll see those all those recommendations again later on in the agenda. The committee next meets for a 2-day meeting, January 8th and 9th. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 11 is the report by the Executive Committee, so that we do meet the Executive Committee in the off months where we don't have a commission meeting. So we're touching base with staff, Chelsea, et cetera, during those periods. So I thought it might be good to kind of just give an idea of what goes on in terms of for the new commissioners and the folks in the audience. But, essentially, we have a report from Chelsea. It talks about agency operations, things that are going on, anything, of note there that needs to be talked about. Review the metrics on, calls, emails, customer service type things, as well as other items. And so that's always, very informative. And I have to say, you'll see that in some of these reports, it's amazing the work that's being done. We do have an ongoing agenda item, which is called, the agency fee increase that we're continuing to pursue. So we obviously give that quite a bit of discussion, which is mostly an update, on that, which, again, we're in a holding pattern. We talked a little bit about probated suspensions, actually quite a bit about that. We had talked about the rules that will be withdrawn, the ones that we will be remaining that General Counsel Lee just talked about. Talked about the MOU, right, that we just approved for Texas A&M Real Estate Center. Talked about, what was involved in that and the benefits of all that. And workshop topics. And then, of course, follow up from the last meeting. So gives you a little sense of, it's the topics change depending on, what is, hot or not at the moment, so to speak, but topical, I guess you would say. But again, those happen in the off months, and thought that might be of interest to you. So, any questions, comments on that? Okay. All right. So next up will be the Enforcement Committee, and that report will be given by Commissioner Pena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Enforcement Committee met on September 29th. Commissioner Lowe, Commissioner Bernstein, and myself. met to consider 3 items on the agenda, which 2 consisted of 2 motions for a hearing in the matter of TREC hearing number 242692, TREC versus Chantal Allison. The committee voted to deny motion for a hearing on that one. We also considered another motion, TREC hearing number 241549, TREC versus Sterling Rafael Reed. And the committee also voted to deny that motion for a hearing as well. And the last topic that we talked about on the agenda was possible action regarding draft rule 22 TAC 533.11 temporary suspensions, which will be on agenda item number 25 today for consideration as well. So that was the extent of it. Good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to item number 13, which would be operations. So,
Well, good
Executive
morning
Director Jeff
again.
Buckles.
Welcome to Commissioner Olguin. We are delighted to have you on the team and to work with you for the next several years. Please ask questions all along the way in this meeting, afterwards. It's in our best interest to get you up to speed and to equip you with everything you need. So thank you for being here. As we go through these staff reports, I wanted you to know that each director is going to introduce themselves, as they often do, and explain what their division does and how that fits into the bigger picture of TREC. They will also be reporting on year-end data, and that is because our year ends at the end of August. And so we have concluded that fiscal year 2025 and have a full year of data to report to you. These reports that staff provide give you a good idea of how the agency is performing. And it gives tremendous insight into our work, good, bad, and the ugly. It also shows our vulnerabilities, which informs your work. And so I just want you to kind of know why we spend so much time on these reports. I feel like this data is important. I have to take a moment to do a few thank yous. First, just to recognize, as we did earlier, the outgoing committee members. The work that our advisory committees do is really selfless. They spend time away from their real work. They contribute their time and energy in a way that is very selfless, and I am grateful. It's really the roll up your sleeves kind of work. And this commission, staff and commissioners are better, I believe, because of the work of the advisory committees. So thank you to Rita Blevins, Mandy Nichols, and Cassie Scott on ESAC, and Lee Warren, Teresa Benavidez, and Ed Muth on the Inspectors Committee. I have to say an especially solid thank you to Lee Warren, who has served for such a long time. As we've mentioned, 13 years is a long time. He is a strong leader, and we owe him a world of things. So thank you, Lee. I also wanted to thank Pamela Cannon from the Center for being here earlier and for providing her annual report. It's a pleasure to work with Pam, and I am grateful for the leadership she brings to the center. She and I enjoy regular Teams meetings and an occasional lunch so that we can share notes and make sure we're in lockstep. And she's doing wonderful work at the center, which is such a good thing for Texas. And then, of course, thank you to Carrie Dahl, who provided us with the Pearson VUE report on our examination process for all of the applicants in Texas. I love the information that provides, and it gives us a little window into such an important piece of the work of the agency that we rely on Pearson VUE to provide. So I will start my reporting, my actual reporting first, just bragging on staff. We have just concluded on Friday the State Employee Giving Campaign, in which our staff raised close to $17,000, including 84% of our staff participating. So this is a campaign for all state agencies to give to thousands of different charities of their choice, primarily through a payroll deduction throughout the year. This year in particular, with inflation and expenses high, funding is tight for all of us. Many feel very squeezed. I am extraordinarily proud of just the generosity of our staff. Our staff is not only generous, they are also extremely hardworking, and never has that been more obvious than during this rollout of the Real Estate and Appraiser License Management Portal, or as we call it, the REALM portal. That is launching December 10th. I'm so grateful to say that. This is our new license management system. It will be a one-stop tool for license holders to use to manage their license, as well as our back-end system to track payments, all of our data, documents, almost every piece of information we collect will be housed in that system. There will be more online processes, and it should make doing business with TREC much easier. So much like a home remodel, this project has had some surprises, it's had some delays, lots of shifts in scheduling, and at times it's felt like we were treading water and may never conclude, but it feels good to have the end in sight. So what does it mean for our license holders? This is the most important question. First off, it means that starting on December 2nd at 5 p.m. until December 10th, opening of business, license holders will not be able to log into our current license management tool. That's our Versa system. TREC will still, of course, be open for business, and our website will have all of the forms and the FAQs that people rely on. All of that will still be available. But the license holder search and information that ties to someone's license will pause in time on December 2nd at 5 p.m. No new information will be going into that. There will be no activity going on in the license holder's profile beyond us transferring all of that data from our current management system into the new one. Staff will not even have access to either database, new or old, during this time, and we will not be able to enter data or make changes on a license holder's behalf. So we will truly be frozen in time. All of our license holders will receive an email through our current system, Versa, inviting them to activate this new account in the REALM portal. That's a key piece for all of our license holders, to find that email and to activate their account. Some of our license holders are due for renewal around this month, and our advice is, guess, renew early. Renew before December 2nd. Otherwise, license holders will have to wait until December 10th. And this timing, of course, is especially important for designated brokers, because all sponsored agents will go inactive if the designated broker's license expires. We are working very hard to be proactive on that. We will likely call some of those larger designated brokers who sponsor many agents who kind of fit within that timeline, just to make sure we are doing everything we can to get people to renew early. So help us spread the word. I owe significant thanks to our license holders. The interest in this new system is astounding. We get a lot of questions all the time. People are excited about it, and I'm excited about their excitement. We owe them thanks for their patience as we roll it out, and for their diligence in learning it in the coming months. I'm grateful for that excitement and that engagement, and am committed to doing right by our license holders in this transition and beyond. Internally, this has been a long, hard season. We have had a collection of our staff who have rescheduled vacations and who have worked every weekend and who are making plans to work more than normal during this holiday season to make this project a success. So thank you to each of them for powering through even in this 11th hour. Tom Watson has led the charge on this, and I am grateful for his efforts. You will also hear more from Summer Mandel during her report on this communication effort, which is like her Super Bowl, I've decided. She's doing an excellent job spreading the word, and she'll provide you with a few of those updates. A few shorter updates to give you. Now, the REALM portal, I've told you everything about the REALM portal. One thing is that a few of us attended the Arello conference in September in Miami. This is a gathering of real estate regulators executive directors, other directors, commissioners from across the country and really even beyond. We meet twice a year, spring and fall. And at this fall conference, the topic that I came away with that was discussed probably more than any other was around AI, the regulation and the enforcement of its use for license holders, and how to educate license holders around kind of this emerging AI world. I also heard continued chatter that really remains the same at almost every Arello conference around buyer rep agreements, other types of written agreements, wholesaling, broker responsibility, how different states enforce their rules and what that looks like for them. I also spent just some time at that conference learning about Arello's pending increase in exam accreditation fees that each license or each applicant pays to them for the accreditation of exams through the different exam providers. That's an ongoing conversation and something I continue to learn more about, but that will happen next year, that increase in fee. And at this conference, I was also appointed to sit on a job task analysis task force, which is seen as a step toward establishing a consistent national exam through Arello instead of through the exam providers. It's just one step of many, but I look forward to serving on that task force. Jennifer Wheeler also participated in that conference from staff. She and I, and then Commissioner Lerner also attended, and I believe she had a few remarks she wanted to mention. And I'll just step back from the mic so you can do that now.
Okay. Just as you said, they talked a lot about AI, and when people are asking how they are regulating it, they're pretty much saying the natural person is the licensee, and that's who it all goes back to. They talked a lot about mortgage and deed fraud. Transaction coordinators, about the confidentiality about them, and can a transaction coordinator be licensed by one broker and work as a TC with another broker, which most people frowned upon, and that is what BRAC is looking at right now as well. They said that that is a source of implied agency, just as though open houses that are hosted by somebody outside the listing broker is also implied agency as well. They talked about brokers in charge must attend hearings if an agent is called for anything. A lot of states do their own hearings. A lot of the commissioners do their own hearing, so they always have the broker in charge there. Some states are encouraging wholesalers to have a license because of the deed fraud and the theft going on. Many states are enacting laws about listings that can only be 1 year max to get rid of some of those companies that are putting liens on homes and doing things they shouldn't be doing. They also talked about suspensions, and during the case law section, they showed a bunch of cases and how they were handled by different jurisdictions. Ours happened to have what is it called? The pending, suspended, but what is it called? Now I can't even think of my name.
Probated suspension?
Probated suspension, sorry. So, and people kind of didn't understand why we're doing that. I have some information that I've received since then out from the listserv. I had provided it to the chair, and I guess the executive committee decided they didn't want to do anything with it, but if you'd like that information, I'm happy to share it with you. I just feel like that we need to protect our consumers more than just allowing a probated suspension and taking away any sort of discipline. So that was pretty much all we talked about, or what we got from Arello this time.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Lerner. Okay, two more quick things I want to mention, and then I will sit down. Typically in non-legislative calendar years, which we are entering as we go into 2026, we ask commissioners to submit their interests to serve as the agency's initiatives for the year. Just a general ask of what topics would you like us to study, research, re-examine, to kind of focus the staff's energy. After discussing this with the chair, we're going to do it a little bit differently coming into this 2026, and that is primarily because it seems as if our initiatives have been chosen for us. For lack of a better way of saying that, this will be our first full year of using the Realm portal. There will be tweaks and changes to make there, as well as coming alongside our license holder community every month as they encounter it for the first time. So I know that will be a significant effort. We will also implement efficiencies that come from that new system, just naturally from that new system, and we'll spend some time and energy there. And then we'll also work on getting a yes for our need for a fee increase, which currently remains in a holding pattern with great hope and expectation. If you have any additional items that you wish the agency to focus on, please just bring those to my attention so that we can work those in. But we're just doing it a little bit differently this year because of just where we are with how we're spending our time, I'll say. And before I conclude, I want to just note one thing in the reports on page 39. You will receive a lot of helpful information from each director that comes up here. But in terms of licensing, on page 39, you will see that the year we have just concluded, fiscal year 2025, is the first year since 2012 that our license holder count went down. We are expecting that. This is not a surprise to us. I think the only surprise is that it went down so little, less than a percentage point. But I wanted you to just note that and note this interesting chart that's on page 39. This is something that we will watch closely as it affects the amount of revenue we collect and just also as we support the license holder community. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or I'll pass the mic to the next person.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Robert Hood, Director of Customer Relations Division. Thank you, Robert.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. I am Robert Hood. I'm the Director of the Customer Relations Division. The Customer Relations Division serves as our agency's centralized customer service hub. We respond to inquiries from our Texas consumers, our license holders, and applicants through phone, email, and in-person visits. We are fully staffed at 26 dedicated employees. Today, I'm pleased to present to you in two different parts. First, will be a comparison of our performance over the last 5 fiscal years. And then second will be data from September 2025, which is the first month of our current fiscal year. On page 16 in your meeting materials, you'll find the total number of calls the contact center was presented each year for the past 5 fiscal years. In fiscal year 2021, 248,000 calls were presented in this fiscal year. And then in this past fiscal year, 185 calls were presented. During the same time frame, we have consistently been below our 2-minute target of 2 minutes or less. And then in 2021, we were right under our 2-minute target with 1 minute and 57 seconds. And the whole time was 1 minute and 34 seconds this past fiscal year. Fiscal years 19 and 20 no longer appear in this 5-year comparison, but we have come a long way from our average monthly hold time of 14 minutes during that time. This indicates a significant increase in our call handling efficiency. Moving to page 17, you can see the average number of calls presented each month for the last 5 fiscal years. In 2021, we were presented with an average of 19,000 calls each month, and this past fiscal year, the average number of calls presented each month was about 14,000 calls. On page 18, I would like to tell you about our volume of emails over the past 5 years. In 2021, we handled about 57,560 emails of which 94% were responded within 1 business day of receiving them. This past fiscal year, we handled about 32,000 emails, and 100% of those emails were responded to within 1 business day. Our goal for email responses are to respond within 1 business day, and for the most of the past 5 years, we've met this goal. Next, on page 19, this shows the average number of emails the contact center responded to each month of the fiscal year. In fiscal year 2021, we averaged about 5,000 emails per month, and last fiscal year, we averaged about 3,000 emails per month. As the number of emails decreased, we were able to meet our goal of 100% process within 1 business day. This concludes my fiscal year comparison. Happy to answer any questions before moving on to our September report.
I'd just like to say that's remarkable to me that, emails in 1 business day, the hold times, et cetera. I mean, particularly given from where we came, but just thinking about, emails I send in my business and things like that. I mean, congratulations to you and your
Thank you.
folks. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our September report on page 21. This is for September 2025. All metrics for this month trended positively with call volume at approximately 13,900 calls, and our wait time for September was 36 seconds. We had 18 staff members manage calls and emails. Our hold time for the entire month was below our 2-minute target, with the exception of the last day of the month when our hold time increased to 3 minutes. September 30th was the last day of the month, and we were presented with 1,000 calls in that one day. The comparison of calls between the board and TREC remains consistent, with 94% of our workload being TREC related. On page 22, this provides a 13-month comparison, 13-month overview of call volumes and hold times. In September 2024, as noted, we handled about 13,000 calls, and then this past September 2025, we maintained about the same number of calls with a slightly lower wait time for customers. The majority of the last 13-month period, we have been below our target of 2-minute wait time. On page 23, this is our 13-month comparison of emails processed. In September, we processed 2,545 emails, all within 1 business day of receipt. Page 24, page 24 shows our fiscal year comparison with data for September 2025 only. We handled about 14,000 calls and an average hold time of 36 seconds for fiscal year 2026 so far. In conclusion, I appreciate your attention to the progress of the Customer Relations Division. The division is looking forward to the implementation of our new licensing database. We are anticipating an increased call volume and increased emails for the first few months after implementation. Realm is more customer-friendly than our current system, and license holders will be able to manage their accounts on their own without much intervention from our team. We anticipate initial burst of calls. We will be assisting license holders to set up their accounts in Realm and helping them navigate through the new pages in the new system. I welcome any questions regarding our strategies of the Customer Relations Division.
Questions? Okay. Thank you, Director Hood.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Director of Licensing, Denise Samples. Oh, Jennifer Wheeler, Education Examination Services. I went out of order. I apologize.
No worries. All right, good morning again, Chair Woodruff, Commissioners. Jennifer Wheeler, Director of Education and Exams for the record. I'd like to first begin by responding to your question earlier about exam pass rates. And in FY 2025, the first time pass rates for both sales agents and brokers was 55%. First time pass rate. The overall pass rate for sales agents was 78%, and the overall pass rates for brokers was 82%. As you know, various factors can impact the first-time pass rates. There are some students who just want to sign up and go take it to get a feel for it. The cost of the exam is not overly burdensome at like $39, I believe. So I think that kind of allows for, a little bit of that variance. You also have considerations like test anxiety. And, but I do want to let you know that we also publish exam topic reports. It was a little bit like what Carrie was talking about from Pearson View, but every month or every quarter, we'll publish the exam topic reports, which tell you basically for the sales agent exam in this quarter, how successful was this content area. So it's a useful tool for our applicants to be able to take a look at.
Thank you.
Chance, I feel like you have a question.
I do have a question.
Commissioner Brown.
When you say overall pass rate, does that mean that 22 out of 100 people just give up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is what that means.
Okay.
Yeah, they for whatever reason, don't enter the business. They never successfully pass.
Okay.
But you have 82% that do. Okay. Yeah, and if that's something that the commissioners are interested in keeping up with or knowing more about, I'm happy to include that in reports. So I'll move on. The Education and Exams Division reviews applications for qualifying and continuing education providers and their courses to ensure statutory and agency requirements are met. Division team members support the agency's mission to protect consumers of real estate services in Texas by ensuring that content for qualifying and continuing education courses is both accurate and relevant, and that courses satisfy requirements for adult learning, design and delivery methodologies. And we do this for real estate, inspector, and easement or right-of-way agents. We assist education providers in preparing applications. We work with the communications and exec teams to administer the non-elective instructor training program for Legal Update 1 and 2 and broker responsibility. And we administer compliance audits to help ensure education providers understand and abide by commission rules for things like course administration and advertising. So that's kind of the overview of the work that's done in the Education Division. And then the education reports begin on page 26 of your materials. We closed out FY 2025 much like we expected to. In the prior fiscal years, we've seen a relatively steady increase in overall applications and expected FY 2025 to see a little bit of a settling out of that. When you look at the chart on the top left, that contains the qualifying education provider approvals. So it's important to remember that approval terms for education providers is 4 years. Fluctuation often aligns with changes in the market itself. In a hot market, there's incentive for new education providers to enter the business. And as things level out, you'll see, not as many new players. Below the QE provider approvals are the below QE providers as a fiscal year comparison of qualifying courses approved. These approval terms also last for 4 years. However, FY 2025 marked changes to some of the qualifying course content, requiring resubmittal of previously approved courses, which is reflected in the jump in approvals here. So you'll see that jump in 2025. And then looking to the right side of the page, you'll see the same type of information reflected for CE providers and courses. Although our volume of CE provider applications dropped by about 10% from FY 2024, we are still a little over 30% from where we were back in FY 2021 and have remained consistently above that mark. While we dropped slightly from from the last fiscal year, 2024, by only 2.5%, we have steadily increased our volume fiscal year over year above 2021 by nearly 40%. So I think that's of significance. The last page of my year-over-year report reflects all applications combined, and while we dropped by less than 1% this year over last year, we are still, again, nearly 40% above FY 2021, 5 years back. Are there any questions related to education reports? Okay. So then, like all the other divisions will do for you, our team, well, like all the other divisions have been doing, our team has been working diligently to prepare for the upcoming launch of Realm. In particular, for education, this new database management and licensing system will bring about great advances and efficiencies. To date, education providers have had to submit paper applications and use checks or money orders to make payments. However, with Realm, all education provider and course applications will move to an online submission format with fees payable by credit card. This is just like, I know you keep hearing me say this meeting after meeting, but it's just an amazing jump for us and an amazing gain in efficiency. We have configured all the online applications to allow for the submission of all relevant documentation as well. A major upgrade for education providers while also reducing the amount of data entry required by the education team, allowing them to focus on document and course content review, as well as their review of course design and delivery, which is the key for us. As I mentioned earlier in my report, this aspect of our work in the division is the most important thing in supporting consumer protection in Texas. In advance of this major transition, we have scheduled a series of communications for education providers to ensure they have the knowledge and tools surrounding new processes at their fingertips. We will also have multiple phone and email backups available during the transition so that we are readily accessible and available to assist our stakeholders. And this concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer questions about any of it. Okay, thank you so much.
Very much. Okay, now, let's, Director of Licensing, Denise Samples.
Good morning again. Chair Woodruff and Commissioners. For the record, Denise Sample, Director of Licensing. And I would like to start by describing a little bit about the Licensing Division and what we do. The Licensing Division is made up of 20 staff members, and our role is to safeguard the public interest and protect consumers of real estate services by ensuring that license holders meet the minimum education, experience, and examination requirements before a license or registration is issued to sales agents, brokers, both individual and business entities, inspectors, and easement or right-of-way registrants. And so before I present my reports, I would like to provide a Realm portal update. I hope you guys, you all don't get tired of hearing about this, but we're very excited as well. One of the biggest benefits that we're expecting for our license holders and applicants is the ability to upload documents directly to an online application. And the applicant will be able to see exactly what was uploaded, what additional information we might have asked for, or additional supporting documentation we would have asked for, and then respond to a request by uploading additional documents all through that online account. Another big benefit for license holders is going to be the ability to log in to their online account and see exactly what education is required for their renewal. As a reminder, as we do prepare for this launch, we expect to see an increase in processing times of applications as our staff is divided between processing and the Realm portal rollout. But it is our goal to stay within the processing goal of 14 calendar days across all applications. So if I can direct your attention to page 35 of your materials. I'll go over the licensing division reports, and we begin with a year-over-year comparison of total applications received. This is past 5 fiscal years. So you'll see we ended fiscal year 2025 with about 10% fewer applications overall than the year before. The next report is the license holder and registrants. This is a 5 fiscal year comparison broken down by license type. So you'll see we ended, as Executive Director Buckholz explained earlier in her report, less than 1% fewer license holders, 237,996, compared to the previous fiscal year. So the next report breaks down graphically by license type. The next page is I think it's the funnest report because it has the most years of information there. It goes back to fiscal year 2005 through fiscal year 2025. And just as a reminder, this is the first year since fiscal year 2012 that we've seen a decrease in the total license holder counts. It's about 2002, exactly 2002 fewer license holders and registrants. So the next report is a long-term fiscal year comparison of the renewal rates. And these are color-coded by even years and odd years in order to assist with comparing even years and odd years, since all of our licenses are on a 2-year renewal cycle. And then starting on page 42 of your materials, we get into the regular monthly staff reports with data through the end of September 2025. This is the first month of the new fiscal year. So we start with initial applications received, and these are broken down by license type. So as you can see with the color coding, we're starting out with the first month of the fiscal year ahead of the same time period last fiscal year. And if you see on the next page, this carries over into all of the application types processed in the division, including easement and right-of-way and business entity registrations. The next report is the renewal activity. And this is broken down by license type. You'll see the raw numbers for renewals at the top of each bar graph and then below the renewal rate. So this is how many renewed out of how many were eligible to renew. And this is a number we do monitor closely. The next page is the total license holder and registrant count 13-month comparison, so from September 2024 through September of 2025. And we did notice another slight decrease, 0.14% in the total license holder count from August of 2025 to September of 2025. The next page is a graphical presentation of those license holder counts broken down by license type. And the last report is our application processing time. This is a 13-month comparison. As a reminder, the goal is 14 calendar days, and this is the total amount of time, the average of the amount of time it takes the licensing team to provide a response when documents for an application are received. And it excludes any time that it may take the applicant to pass the exam or to clear the fingerprint-based background check. And that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Commissioner Brown.
Okay, going to page 37. So we have 22 fewer brokers between fiscal year 24 and 25. But we have 2,733 business entity registrations.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know how much of that is shed off of one to the other, or?
That information, just because the way that data is stored, a broker license is tied to a designated broker in our database, and a business entity registration is tied to an individual license holder, typically mostly sales agents, with a unique LLC name. So we don't have a way in our database to connect those dots.
Do we know how many of those 2,733 are sales agents and not brokers?
That's information we could get.
Just curious.
Yeah, I don't have that on hand, but that is information I could get.
Because I mean, one could argue we actually have more brokers than and not 22 fewer.
Well, and we are counting, not in this long-term one, which, I can make a revision to, but in the month-to-month report, the regular monthly report, we do include the business entity registrations in that total count. It's not in this breakdown, but I can definitely get that data to you.
I also have to brag on your division for a second. I applied for a new broker LLC license, and somebody from your division actually called me and told me how dumb I was and what I needed to fix instead of just getting like a random email, and it was awesome.
That is fantastic to hear.
Yeah, it was great, and it sped up the process, which was even better. So it was fantastic. Thank
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Moving right along, Director of Enforcement, Mr. Michael Malloy.
Good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Mike Malloy, Director of Enforcement. So before diving into my reports, just take a moment to talk about the division and also to share how the new Realm portal is going to enhance the complaint process. So the Enforcement Division is responsible for investigating and enforcing consumer-related complaints involving all of our license holders, including unlicensed brokerage activity. We also review the applications and current license holders who may have background-related types issues. So the Realm portal, it's going to introduce some significant workflow improvements for my division. More notably also, though, consumers will be able to file complaints electronically, eliminating the burden of figuring out how to fill out the PDF form and figuring out how to sign it and attach all your documents and such. The system will allow electronic signatures and allow you to upload the documents directly into the portal. Additionally, license holders are going to have the ability to pay administrative penalties directly using a credit card. They also have the ability to submit a response electronically through the system by answering specific questions that we designate, and I give them the ability to attach as much documentation that they would like in their response for complaints. Notably also, you'll be able to log on to the portal and see where your complaint is in the complaint process. So, finally, I'm proud to share that for the second year in a row, our division received the Arillo Investigator of the Year award. This year's recipient, Jenna Hall, was recognized for her outstanding work on a complex rental fraud investigation. I believe it was a well-deserved honor. Moving on, I'll begin with my 2025 wrap-up, page 48. So the end-of-year summary, this past year, the division opened 5,974 cases, just a slight decrease from last year. Broker sales cases have continued to increase. This fiscal year, seeing a 15% increase just this year and an overall 38% increase over the past 5 years. This increase coincides with the steady decline in application and fitness determination case openings. Additionally, we further decreased our overall average number of days open for complaints to 80.5 days. If you recall, several years ago, we were right around about 200 and 225 days. So this concludes my annual review. If there are no questions, I'll proceed to my brief overview of the September case status report.
Any questions? No? Proceed.
The unlicensed activity incidents, is that mostly wholesalers or what is that?
What, in general? Actually, not really, not mostly the wholesalers. I would say it's typically people either that misunderstand, maybe we'll get situations where someone wants to help out a relative and do something, or maybe they misunderstand what's necessary in property management. Like you can do some property management, right, for, like maintaining properties, but they'll collect rent or something like that. So it's a big different things. We also get, license holders that may have expired and didn't realize they expired or went inactive, and then they have those types of cases as well.
Thank you.
So for the September case, we opened 552 cases. Moving on to next page, 92% of our cases are within that 0 to 6 month range. For the remaining cases, are at or near low percentage averages. So the cases that are represented within that 12 to 24 month range have either been closed or are currently docketed at SOA. Finally, moving to our complaint subject categories. There's really been no significant changes or trends since my last report. The top 3 complaint categories have consistently remained as sales, other, licensure issues, breach of fiduciary duties. This concludes my report. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Director Maloney.
I will see you shortly.
Moving right along. Excuse me, Mr. Tom Watson, Director of IT.
Good morning. I'm Tom Watson, Director of Information Technology. The Information Technology Group is responsible for ensuring integrity, availability, and efficiency within all of the technical and digital platforms of the agency. Some of the key areas that we directly are responsible for are data and systems security, network deployment and management, software applications management, and document management. As we look on page 56, this is showing a year-over-year for the past 5 years, representation of some of the activities that are technology-driven, such as website, online transactions. I did have a correction on this particular page. On the website section in August of 25, the actual numbers should reflect, I believe you did get updates, but they reflect 18.5 million as well as 5.5 million. It does show the last 2 years under both the pages viewed and the web sessions of some decreasing activity in our website performance. Continue to monitor to see how that goes. As we look at the online transactions, that's broken down into two sections. One is the initial applications, and the second is online renewals. What we find here is that the online transactions for everything but sales agents is pretty consistent and reliable. Sales agents has taken a drop over the last 2 years. And then renewals, we're strong across the board for all license types that we currently present online. On page 58, we'll take a look at the current fiscal year, September, 1 month presentation of the kickoff of this fiscal year. It pretty much shows the same story as what we just talked about in the bigger picture of year over year, 5 years. So we have a slight drop on the website, slight drop on the sales agent online activity, but other areas are showing very consistent results. And finally, on the next page is a graphical representation of the last 12 months of the online services for both initial applications and renewals. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Renata Williams, our Chief Financial Officer, is next.
Good morning, Chair Woodruff and Commissioners. Renata Williams, Chief Financial Officer. Let's see here. What's going on? Sorry. My team and I are responsible for all aspects of revenue accounting, forecasting, accounts payable, payroll, travel, procurement, contracting, asset management, and facilities management. Today, I will be presenting the fiscal year 2025 closeout report and the 2026 monthly report for September. Starting on page 61, we will begin the FY25 closeout report, and it's structured similarly to our regular quarterly reports. You'll just see we have an addition of our dashboard and our 5-year trend analysis. But here you can see at the top, we collected a total amount of revenue of $13.6 million. Our total expenses were $18.6 million. And so we had an operational loss of $4.9 million. When you look at the income section at the top of the report, you can see that our budgeted revenue for the fiscal year was $13.8 million, and our actual collection was $13.6, and that was actually a difference of $186,979. So we collected 98.6% of our target. And also, if you look at that little pie chart there, you'll see 90.8% of our revenue is derived from licensing fees. So again, any deviation with licensing counts, new sales apps, or anything like that has the ability to affect our revenue greatly. In regards to the expense portion of the report, our budgeted expenses were $21.2 million and we spent $18.6. On page 62, it's just notes basically about the previous page. Moving on to page 63. This is a chart that gives you a comparison of the revenue and expenses for FY24 and FY25. And as you can see, we anticipated higher expenses in FY25 as we continue with the Realm portal project. Although it wasn't ideal, we also projected a decrease in revenue for FY25. And that was based on the decreases that we've been recognizing in the licensing fee category. As briefed earlier on the licensing report, particularly on page 36, you'll see we had a 10% decrease in initial applications received in FY25. And that's where we were projecting the decrease due to the historical trends, where we're seeing a decline in new people coming into the industry. On page 64 is the project budget for the Realm portal project. As you all know, this is a multi-year project. We've been tracking the budget for this from FY21 through FY27. So each year is, corresponds to a letter on the side there. So as you're looking at that, we have the FYs, we have the LBB categories, we have information about the particular contract or purchase order, how much we have budgeted in expenditures, the budgeted expenditures, how much our actual expenditures were, and any variances. To date, we have budgeted expenditures of $5.5 million. We've recognized $3.1 million in actual expenditures with approximately $2.3 million remaining to pay for this project. On page 65 is a snapshot of our revenue dashboard. Here, each tile shows you the actual amount of revenue that was collected, what we budgeted to collect, and what last year's actual collection was. And so it gives you that year-over-year change percentage. On page 66, you'll find snippets from our expenditure dashboard. So same kind of setup here, actual expenses, what we budgeted, and what we spent the previous year. And then here we're also kind of categorizing or showcasing our top 4 active categories. On page 67 is our 5-year trend data. Here, it provides you a view of the actual revenue and expenditures from FY21 through FY25. It also gives you the information about the approved budget for FY26 and the projected budget amounts for FY27 and 28. Okay. Page 68, we transition into our fiscal year end holdings report, and this is basically our ending balances in each portfolio, and it's comprised of cash and U.S. Treasury notes. In account 3055, which is our TREC operating account, the account balance was $12 million. We had 5.1 in operating reserves, which left $6.9 million as our ending balance. On page 70 is account 3058, our real estate recovery fund. We had $4.2 million as our account balance, $730,000 reserved for potential payments within the next 90 days, and that left $3.5 million as our ending account balance. And on page 71, it shows payment history of that real estate recovery fund. Here you'll see data such as the amount of the various claim payments we've had, any repayments received, any admin penalties received, and the number of claims paid per year. And then moving on to page 72 is the account 3059. That's the real estate inspector recovery fund. Our ending account balance was $487,434. There are no potential payments within the next 90 days. And there's also a chart on the right that shows you the payment history. As you can see, our last payment out of that fund was one that we had in fiscal year 2025, and before that, it was 2017. Now I will move on to the September monthly reports. Starting on page 74, the executive financial report. Again, our revenue collected for the month of September was 1.1 million. Our total expenses were 1.3 million. We recognized an operational loss of 114,000. Our ending revenue collection was 9% of our projected monthly amount, so we're slightly above our monthly target of 8.33%. And our ending expenses for September were at 6%, and it's below our target of 8.3, but since our budgeted expenses are more than our revenue, that's what plays into that operational loss that we're seeing. On page 76 is a chart that just details the revenue and expense comparison for FY25 and 26 for the month of September. Page 77, again, is the Realm Portal project budget. And for here, there's actually no change from what I showed you for the August report because we were not presented any invoices in the month of September, nor did we have any additional expenditures or change orders that would have increased the budget amount. So that amount is the same as what we saw for August. Now, going forward, that will change because we've had some invoices since then. All right, moving on to the investment reports. On page 79 is account 3055, which is the TREC operating account. Account balance was 10.9 million. We had a 4.9 in operating reserves, which left 6 million as our ending account balance. On page 80, account 3058, we had 4.3 million as our account balance. $575,600 reserved for potential payments within the next 90 days, and that left 3.7 million as our ending account balance. And finally, on page 81 is account 3059, Real Estate Inspector Recovery Fund, and here the ending account balance was $487,833, and there are no potential payments for the next 90 days. Okay. The Financial Services Department is looking forward to the deployment of the Realm Portal project and the self-service tools that will provide our applicants and license holders, giving them the ability to pay for all of their application fees, course provider fees, admin penalties online with their credit or debit card. Our team has been extremely busy testing the new portal to ensure that the transactions flow as intended and that the payment portion of the Realm portal is self-explanatory, transparent, and easy to use. They will also be able to log in to see their payment history within their account and no longer need to contact us to request that information. Are there any additional questions? Are there any questions?
Page 77.
Page 77.
Can you kind of walk me through E, F, and G at the bottom and how that reconciles with this report? I've gone over all of these, and that was the only place where I got a little confused.
Yes, sir. So page 77, starting at E. So E is representative of FY25. And so the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are activities or purchase orders or things that we had going on in FY25. So as you can see in the budgeted expenditures category, we had $855,550 of new expenses for FY25. We actually paid out $1.6 million in FY25. And so that's why you see that variance is a negative 798. It's just math. So 885 with the budget of 1.6 from expenditures will give you that negative number. But what it's not showing you is that, so if you look at number 1 here, that 23 PO for Acela, that actually was recorded in line C for budgeted expenditures for the project. And so as we go along and we make payments against that particular PO, the PO number doesn't change. We're just making the payment here in FY25 or FY26. So that's why we record the expenditure in that particular FY. The same thing for FY26, which is letter F. Those are projected expenses that we have budgeted. And let me see what is the particulars. For that, that's going to be our Acela Software as a Service production cost. So that's budgeted for the $354,000. And then in G for FY27, that's another Acela Software as a service production cost that's already a part of the contract that we're projecting to pay out for the future.
So line number one, the $1,035,000 was paid, but it was budgeted in
23.
item C,
Yes,
which
sir.
was fiscal year 2023.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions?
One question. So at this point, with respect to the total expenditures on the, I guess, the capital costs, are there any other anticipated changes or major change orders?
Well, we do have a couple of change orders that are pending, that are in the works. We have to receive DIR approval to move forward on those. But major change orders, Tom? No, just those two.
How much are we looking at? Marginal?
20,000, 40,000 total.
Okay. Thank you. By the way, that is a beautiful schedule. I mean,
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, thank you. All righty. Government and Strategic Communications Director, Summer Mandel.
Good morning, or almost good afternoon. I'm Summer Mandel, Government and Strategic Communications Director. A part of the goal of the Communications Division is to share information that's useful, clear, timely, trustworthy, and we do that through a multitude of ways. So we've got email newsletters, we've got social media, we do articles online, our courses, speaking events, you name it. I work with communications specialist Sierra Pizarro. She's got the camera in the back. She assists with all of those initiatives, but she also produces our videos. And I would like to note that the 75 Years of TREC video series that she produced won an Arello Award. As Executive Director Buckholtz pointed out, Arello is basically the association of regulatory agencies across North America. So this is a great honor to receive that. And so her goal with that was to highlight the individuals who work at TREC to do all of these wonderful things everyone's been talking about, and also mark a very historic milestone. We also won an education award for the 2025-2026 Broker Responsibility course. And so this is a required course for brokers and delegated supervisors. We revamped it by design, also some of the content and activities. One that is popular is the Build a Brokerage activity that helps students understand the levels of supervisory roles that you can have in a Texas brokerage. We also have some videos and then some tangible takeaways that brokers can use to build their policies and procedures, which is a requirement. So this is the second year in a row that TREC has won an Arello Award for one of our courses. Last year it was Legal Update 1 and 2. And this is only because of the contributions from many staff members. So Education Director Jennifer Wheeler, Curriculum Developer Jennifer Gruby, also Deputy Executive Director Vanessa Burgess, General Counsel Abby Lee. And I also want to recognize Broker Lawyer Committee Co-Chair John G. George Jr. and former Commissioner Avis Wukash. They are our Train the Trainer instructors. And so it's thanks to them that this course and the others that we have created kind of come to life. And of course, our other instructors, many of you are here today. So thank you so much for your contribution. So also highlighted in your materials, as usual, we've got some open rates and click-through rates for our newsletters. This is data from October 20th. As a reminder, the open rate is the percentage of people who received it who actually opened at least one time, and then the click-through rate is the percentage of those people who clicked on something in the email. And these numbers remain pretty steady across the board. On page 2 of the report, you'll see a breakdown of subscriber engagement for our newsletters. So that's down at the bottom. So 35% of our subscribers are considered most engaged. So they're regularly opening and clicking on things in our emails. And then 62% are somewhat engaged. So sometimes. So the majority of our recipients are engaging with our newsletters, which is great. Let's see. I've also included a comparison of followers on our primary social media. This is the 2024 numbers and 2025 numbers. Those have gone up. Our overall views on Facebook have gone down, but our Reels, which is all of those videos that we post, are up. So 3-second views are up 193%, and 1-minute views are up 73%. So this sounds like a very short amount of time. I recognize that. And although they are key benchmarks for social media tracking and the attention span of most social media users. So in addition, on Instagram, we're getting a lot of views by non-followers, which can speak to our expanding reach, which is exciting. So you may have gotten tired of hearing about the Realm portal from all of the directors, and I take responsibility for that. I asked them to include some of the ways in which the Realm portal is going to assist our license holders and improve their divisions. This is just one of the many ways we're trying to get the word out about this launch. So the plan that Sierra and I have developed is a combination of all this information that they've shared here and elsewhere. And then there are many different pieces. I'll just highlight some of them. So we started by working with licensing director Denise Sample to update those renewal notices. Also, IT started sending those out earlier, so at 120 days, 60 days, and 30 days. So those notices are telling people, hey, this is coming. You might want to renew early. And we started that even before we knew the formal date, just to kind of get people prepared. We're maintaining trec.texas.gov/LMS, which stands for License Management System. We're updating that page as new information becomes available. We launched that page in March, and the bottom of the page shows when it was last updated. We've updated it with some key dates, different benefits for each license holder type, FAQs, and other tools. Those will just continue to keep coming and going on that page. We also created a special limited run newsletter called the Realm Portal Report. That's what those 4 items, you can see, very tiny, but just some of the issues. So as of Friday, we had 469 subscribers to that, which that just keeps going up. You can get to that through trec.texas.gov/LMS. Basically, this is an automation or a drip campaign. So when someone subscribes to this newsletter, it triggers the first email, and then the rest of the emails are scheduled to go out at different intervals. So people might be on different email schedules. For example, I signed up right away, and I've received the 10th email as of today. Some people, they sign up today, they're only going to get the first email. So there are 16 emails we have planned. About half of them are about general benefits that will affect every license holder or user. So just the things they'll be able to do, what to expect online. And the other half answers that what's in it for me question for specific audiences. So I'm a broker. What's in it for me? I'm a sales agent. What's in it for me? If you're subscribing to those, you'll also see what's in it for appraisers and AMCs, because they also will benefit from this. We also have created some specialized media kits, and last week, Texas Realtor staff delivered that to all the local boards in the state of Texas. It's just for association executives. It's got key dates, key terms, key messages, sample emails, blog posts, PowerPoint presentation, other tools, just everything that we could think of that they could possibly need. I know from my experience, there are some smaller boards that will want to use every single bit of it. Then there are other boards who have bigger staffs and are able to do their own thing. And so I am happy for them to use it to the extent that it is helpful, and really appreciate that. We'll also be doing some specialized media kits for others, so educators, certain license holders with large social media presence, and brokers. If you're interested in talking points for your brokerage, you can email us at media@trec.texas.gov, and we can provide that to you as well. So, preparing people for this magnitude of change is complex. As Chelsea said, it's like my Super Bowl. We are using it, every tool we possibly can, and just trying to reach as many people as possible. So I do want to thank a few people, my colleagues, all of those directors who spoke today, who have helped Sierra and I understand the things that their divisions have been working on for years at this point, and Tom, who I ask about 75 questions every couple of hours. Always very gracious. I want to thank our license holders, who are probably the most engaged license holders out of any agency, regulatory agency in Texas. Also, Texas Realtor staff for helping us spread the word, and the local boards for helping us out. And those who have agreed to be our influencers, whether formally or informally, just by sharing our information generously. So our communications efforts on this don't stop on December 10th. We're anticipating the need to be kind of flexible and responsive to what comes up that we don't know about yet. But up until then, just trying to give everyone as much information as they can have, to the point where maybe they're tired of hearing about it. That would be a wonderful achievement of mine, frankly. So that concludes my communications report.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along here, we're at public comments, which members of the public have the opportunity to address the commission concerning an agenda item or issue of public interest that is not on the agenda. Anyone wishing to provide public comment on an issue of public interest that is not on the agenda may do so under this section. Members of the public who wish to speak on a matter specifically listed on the agenda may do so at this time, at the time the agenda item is heard. So all individuals wishing to provide public comment should have filled out a speaker request. I don't know that we have any at this point. Is there anyone in the audience that? Okay, hearing none, we will move on. Okay, now we have for our next item, number 15, Director of Enforcement, Mike Malloy. Now, I guess you're going to he reads that first, right, before
You can just start by announcing the case.
Yeah, okay. All righty. So the case matter at hand is consideration and possible action regarding proposal for decision in the matter of SOA docket number 329-25-14192, REC, TREC versus Eric D. Lee. Director Malloy.
Good afternoon, Mike Malloy for the record.
And before you start, Mike, I don't believe there's anyone here to speak on behalf of the respondent.
Yeah, I was going to say, any party, now, should I go ahead and read? Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of Mr. Lee? Yeah, Eric Lee. No one? Going once? Okay. All righty, proceed.
So this case involves Mr. Lee, a real estate sales agent who was originally issued a probationary license in 2021 due to prior DWI convictions. In October of 2023, Mr. Lee pled guilty to a felony DWI, third or more, was placed on 5 years of community supervision. He failed to notify the commission that the conviction within 30 days is required. And when he renewed his license in December 2024, he falsely stated that he had not been convicted of a felony in the prior 2 years. The administrative law judge found that Mr. Lee violated multiple sections of the Occupations Code, including failure to report a felony, making a material misstatement on his renewal application, and the ALJ determined that his felony DWI offense and repeated failure to disclose demonstrated a lack of honesty, trustworthiness, and integrity, rendering him unfit for licensure. Accordingly, the ALJ recommends revocation of his sales agent license and an assessment of $4,750 administrative penalty. Staff recommends the commission adopt the ALJ's proposal for decision. The attorney that handled the matter is available for detailed questions if needed.
Okay, now, the argument is limited to the record, and this means the party cannot introduce new evidence, et cetera. The new evidence was not reasonably available at the time of the original hearing, or they were misled by a party as the necessity of offering the evidence at the original hearing. This is where commissioners who have questions and allow for discussion among the commissioners. So questions must be limited to the record again, and if the party is represented, an attorney may be directed, but they are not. So,
Can I go?
yeah, please.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to set some groundwork with respect to this enforcement case. First of all, is he still active? Right now, he's currently active as an agent, right? He's not. He
You have to check, I believe so.
He can practice right now, right? He was issued a probationary license on January 29th, 2021.
Correct.
He pled guilty to felony DWI on October the 3rd of 2023. That's a pleading of guilty. He renewed his license on December the 14th of 2024 and did not report the DWI felony, right?
Correct. There's a question on there when you renew, if there had been any felony offenses that you had not previously disclosed to the commission, and he checked no on that question.
His SOA hearing was on June 30th, 2025, correct? And we are sitting here today, the TREC Commission meeting on November the 3rd, 2025, approximately 2 years, a little over 2 years from the DWI pleading of felony, right? He still has available to him a motion for rehearing within the next 30 days? Is that correct? Or
So how that would work would be, depending on this rule today, if it's adopted, then he would have 30 days essentially from the date of the signing of the order to request for a motion for hearing, correct?
okay. Okay, I just want to lay that from his pleading of guilty to now, it's been a little bit over 2 years.
Just to give a little more substance to the timeline stuff. Like this came out in July. This opinion came out in July 31st of 2025. We have to wait for an inceptions period. So would have been great to get it to the August meeting. But there's exceptions periods where basically you can appeal to the judge saying you erred here.
Yeah.
So we additionally have to wait basically 20 plus days for that time to expire. And then we have timelines in regards to getting that information in front of the commission. So that's
I understand. I know it's a procedural thing. But
yes, sir.
I think this is a perfect example of how we're going to discuss the temporary suspensions in agenda item number 25. This is a perfect example of that, in which a respondent was issued a probationary license. He broke probation, right? And
no, he actually was off. His probation was 2 years. So that ended in January of 2023. So that's when he renewed his license. Then he didn't plead guilty until October 2023.
Okay.
So he was off probation, and then when the offense actually occurred, that was while he was on probation. You can't do anything against someone that has a pending criminal offense due to due process issues.
So there was a small gap that not on probation.
Correct.
Albeit within probably the same year, January of 2023.
Yes, it was the same year. Yes, January to October.
Okay.
How long
But
is
also-
the exception period?
It varies. So you basically have 14 days to ask. And so if you do ask for it, then there's times for response. And then the response party gets additional 14 days. But
also
typically, we have to wait for the SOA judge to issue a notice, basically saying, we remanding this decision and this thing back to the commission for them to handle the matter. So that could take a little bit longer than 14 days based on their busy docket, so.
Also, just to clarify, since we're talking timelines here, he did report within the 30 days,
No.
No, we did not.
did not report it upon his renewal. So the commission didn't become aware of this until,
We ran his fingerprints on his renewal,
which was January of this year? December of last year?
December.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then
December.
then the case was promptly open thereafter.
Which was really only like less than 60 days that we would have.
And I don't.
Case reset?
Okay. I was just procedurally, it wasn't, a lot of our cases get reset because, circumstances. We don't typically ask for resets, but, that is a right for someone to ask for reset for, if they give reasonable means for it. And we often have that happen. So if someone is pro se, we'll, in my experience, 100% of the time grant someone a reset if they give just some reasonable cause, like I want to hire a lawyer or whatever. So we're looking at docketing times of 4 months or more these days. And then if you get a reset, then it kicks it out. That didn't happen in this case, but we have situations where.
I just wanted to make sure that we're looking at it through the lens of.
Yes,
This
no,
was
of
a
course.
6-month
Of
process,
course.
not a 2-year process.
Of course. So
yeah.
the renewal process is every 2 years, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
In this specific case, there was a situation where he offended right before his renewal ended, right? Had it been right after,
It would have
that's
been.
plus 2
yes.
years by the time he found out that he would have offended, plus the amount of time it takes for us to administratively push it through SOA and have the next commission meeting. And I mean, so you're looking at 3+ years while we're able to do anything, right? And so these are the types of cases that I think merit some special consideration. I know we have the topic of temporary suspensions coming up on agenda item number 25. I just want to lay some groundwork with respect to the passage of time and how we maybe have an opportunity to be able to address some of that lengthy administrative time. I'm not saying that we should have caught it and we didn't cut it. I'm just highlighting the amount of time that would have passed.
Yes, sir.
Quick procedural question as well. Don't we run wrap back on a regular basis?
So doesn't always work. And we've had, I think you've been notified through Chelsea's weekly emails, we've had issues with that. And this is one of the
I
situations.
thought that was just recently.
It happens on occasion. And it's not us, it's 90+% of the time it's DPS's issues.
Okay, and why on our forms, on our initial application forms, it asks if you have pending charges and it doesn't on our renewal?
Because statutorily, we can't ask that question. We can only punish someone if they commit a felony going forward. But that's something we can actually take in consideration of pending crimes when they are submitting an application initially.
So the
That's correct.
statute says you cannot ask,
Well,
so
we
it's on
can't.
your radar?
We couldn't do anything against them until an actual offense occurs.
But you could keep it on your radar.
No, you can't, because if a person is charged, he still has a
It's still a
process,
charge,
due
and
process.
it wouldn't happen.
You can't
It wouldn't do anything
really
until
act
the
on
end.
a charge or an indictment for that matter. So, yeah, you have to
Okay.
wait.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Malloy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Now, at this point, we're going to go into executive session where we will discuss pending litigation to obtain advice of legal counsel on agenda items pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071. It is 12:15, so I'm thinking, we will reconvene here for the commission meeting. So, thank you. And we will call the November meeting of the Texas Real Estate Commission back in session. So, thank you all. Wow, it gets a little different after lunch, doesn't it? Okay, but Lee's here, so that's good, you know. Okay. All righty, here we go.
And Chair, we are still waiting on Mike, it looks like. Mike Malloy.
Oh.
It's 96.
Let me,
That would be important.
Yeah.
we could go to agenda item 17, if you wanted to,
17?
while we
Okay.
message him.
All right, we'll move to 17. We'll come back and pick up 16 afterwards. Okay, agenda item 17, Recovery Fund, Assistant General Counsel.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. I will be covering items 17 and 18. They pertain to the Recovery Fund. As a reminder, the Recovery Fund is set up to reimburse consumers for harm caused by license holders. Agenda item 17 is discussion and possible action to authorize settlements of Recovery Fund claims or take any other actions. Item 17A is our first claim, RF 25005, Signe Vaughn and Keith Gilmore versus Fernando Vargas. This claim, as a reminder, is involving a sales agent who sold a San Antonio property, claiming that it was suitable for residential use. However, shortly after closing, the city did inform the buyers that the home could not be used as a residence. We do need a motion for this. The staff recommendation is that the commission move to authorize a settlement payment of $19,781.55 plus 7% post-judgment interest calculated on the eligible and reasonable amounts awarded in the judgment of $18,997.11.
Motion to accept staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Item 17B is Recovery Fund Claim RF 26001, Minvu versus Blue Star Capital Holdings, LLC. This claim pertains to a brokerage who agreed to manage 2 rental properties in Converse, Texas. However, the property owner later terminated the agreement because the broker failed to remit rental payments to the owner and was not responding to communication attempts. We also need a motion for this item. The staff recommendation is that the commission move to authorize a settlement payment of $3,400 plus 7.5% post-judgment interest calculated on the $3,400 awarded in the judgment.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Great. Item 18 on the agenda is the report regarding denial of Recovery Fund claims. The commission has a policy which delegates authority to staff to deny certain Recovery Fund claims. That policy also requires staff to provide a summary report of those denials to the commission at its quarterly meetings. Please note you did receive a copy of the denial letters under separate cover. This item does not require any action by the commission. Agenda item 18A is the report regarding denial of Recovery Fund claim RF 25011, the estate of Stephanie Burke, deceased, through Jeffrey Burke, administrator, versus Robert Swindle. This claim is being denied because the facts in the case indicate that the actual damages are related to commission payments, which are not eligible for reimbursement under the fund. Further, the original petition was filed more than 2 years after the cause of action accrued, which is outside of the statute of limitations. Agenda item 18B is the report regarding denial of Recovery Fund claim RF 25012, Angie Anderson Harbin versus Robert Rogers et al. This claim was denied because there is not a final judgment against all the defendants, which is a requirement under the statute.
Motion to deny item 18A and item 18B.
Second.
And,
Do we
and
need
you
one?
actually
We
don't need a
need-
motion for this, it's just a report.
I thought you said there was no motion.
But I love the enthusiasm.
That's right. You get extra points for that.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Extra credit.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll circle back, yes, we'll circle back to agenda item 16.
Yeah, 15.
15, I'm sorry. 15, consideration and possible action regarding proposal for decision in a matter of SOA docket number 329-25-14192.REC, TREC versus Eric Lee. Mr. Malloy. So, any questions, or do we have a motion? I guess we should get a motion.
Either way, if there's additional questions.
Yeah, do we have
for-
additional questions? Let's start with that.
Oh, in this, it said that the 2023 renewal application was lost? Or it was missing? What does that mean?
I can find that information. I don't know that question.
I think that may have meant that maybe when the case was presented, there wasn't really a mention of sort of this interim renewal. So I think it was kind of the ALJ mentioned that as trying to kind of piece together the timeline a little bit when that middle renewal wasn't presented as part of the case.
Yeah. Basically, the ALJ, that's, okay, thank you. It's basically just mentioned that the renewal happened at that time, just to, fill in the timeline. We didn't put into record his renewal at that time, part of the evidence.
I move to adopt the PFD as written.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Agenda item 19, rules for possible adoption. General Counsel Abby Lee,
Okay, good afternoon.
take it away.
So we're moving to the rules for possible adoption section. As a reminder, these are rules that have already been proposed by this body. They went out for public comment. The public comments are contained within your materials. So now these rules are being presented to you for possible adoption. So the first agenda item we have here is agenda item 19. Which is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 531.20, information about brokerage services. I'm going to try to highlight as we go through these rules just some of the things that I think are worth noting. The full description of the changes as well as summaries are in your materials. So for 531.20, our housekeeping bill, SB 1968, added additional information that has to be described in the IBS. As a result, the language in the form, the IBS form, has been updated to reflect this, and the description of the contact information has been updated to better reflect current terminology. We did receive comments. Again, those are in your materials as well. There were 20 comments received, and they were reviewed by the executive committee. While there were positive comments, a number of the commenters found the changes to be confusing. The executive committee discussed this aspect, but determined that it was likely the underlying statutory requirements, which are new, that was likely causing the confusion, not necessarily the form itself, and there wasn't really a fix for that problem. So we think, the executive committee thinks through additional education that problem will be eliminated. As a result, there weren't any changes recommended to the form, with one exception. There was a typo in the license holder contact information, which has since been corrected. Therefore, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC 531.20 and the form adopted by reference as presented to the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption with an effective date of January 1st, 2026.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I want to go on the record as saying this is the IABS form, but I think the phrase, I understand the reason for the phrase being included the way it is. under a license holder can represent a party in real estate transaction being fully negotiable, that I really don't like that word. I understand why it's in there, or that phrase. I think negotiable makes everybody understand that it's negotiable. So that's my comment.
All right. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving right along. Agenda item 20 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to Chapter 535. In the interest of time, the specific sections and a detailed description of the changes and comments are included in your materials. Again, I'm going to highlight a few of these changes, a majority of which are driven by SB 1968, the housekeeping bill. So first things first, an associated broker definition has been added. In 535.21, changes have been made to reflect that license holders have to provide certain business contact information, and that associated brokers have to report their brokerage affiliation. Public high schools are added as an exempted qualifying education provider throughout the rules. In 535.92, changes there have been made to reflect that all brokers have to take the broker responsibility course, regardless of whether they sponsor sales agents. In 535.141, language has been added that a copy of a complaint notice will be sent to certain affiliated license holders. The schedule of administrative penalties, that's Rule 535.191, has been updated to add violations, like violations of the new written agreement requirement to an appropriate penalty tier. 535.5 and 535.405 are updated to reflect changes made by SB 1172, another legislative change. That bill exempted additional types of transactions from the license requirement. And then last but not least, the changes to 535.58 are made as a result of two bills, HB 5629 and SB 1818, which both modify several provisions in Chapter 55 of the Occupations Code. That's the chapter that relates to occupational licensing for military service members, veterans, and spouses. Several comments were received on these changes. Again, they're fully outlined in your materials. The Executive Committee reviewed and had no recommended changes in light of the comments received. Therefore, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 535 as presented to the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption. The amendments to 535.1, 535.21, 535.61, 535.66, 535.75, 535.92, 535.141 and 535.191 would become effective January 1st of 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Goodwin. Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
Okay, agenda item 21 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 535.56. This is the education and experience requirements for broker license rule. So first things first, the changes to subsection A, specifically 1B2 and 1C, are made as a result of our housekeeping bill, SB 1968, which requires applicants for broker's license, again, to complete broker responsibility prior to licensure. And then the changes in E, subsection E is made as a result of our licensing management system project, or the Realm portal. So the remainder of the changes, which I know our Director of Licensing, Denise Sample, went through earlier, were recommended by the Broker Responsibility Advisory Committee, or BRAC. Just to go through them very quickly, we had an increase in minimum experience points required to obtain a broker's license from 360 to 720. A cap to the real estate related education credit given for a bachelor's degree at 300 hours instead of the full 630. A substitution of experience for education above the minimum 720 experience points. And for that, an applicant may receive a credit of up to 300 hours of the required 630 hours. Again, a change to the property management experience calculation and also a change to the delegated supervision calculation. 22 comments were received. They were reviewed by the BRAC. It was a bit evenly split. We had 11 comments generally in support. One of those commenters desired a specific college degree in real estate. The remaining 10 comments expressed some sort of opposition to the proposed changes. Several didn't like the blanket credit for the bachelor's degree, desired that the credit be given only when the degree is in a real estate related field, or wanted only partial credit to be given when the degree is not in the real estate field. Others expressed concern about the increase in experience points required for a license. BRAC discussed all of these comments and ultimately decided to recommend no changes to be made to this proposal. Per the forms update policy, corresponding changes were also made to Supplement A, which is the qualifying experience report for a broker license form. And then the last thing I'll add before the staff recommendation is, as many of you know, this rule was reviewed by the Governor's Regulatory Compliance Office, and we were given approval to move forward with these changes. So the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC 535.56 and the form adopted by reference as presented to the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption with an effective date of January 1st, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Agenda item 22 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to 537.26, 27, and 61. I mentioned these earlier in the Broker Lawyer Committee report. So the proposed changes to the buyer's temporary residential lease, the seller's temporary residential lease, and the landlord floodplain and flood notice are made as a result of SB 2349, which clarifies that the flood notice is not required to be provided with the temporary residential leases. As a result, the paragraph referencing that requirement in the temporary residential leases is removed, and the notice on top of the flood notice form is amended to now state that it's not required with the TREC temporary residential. The comments received were in support of the changes and are recommended by the Broker Lawyer Committee. Therefore, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit for adoption amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 537 and the forms adopted by reference as presented to the Texas Register, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption. The landlord's floodplain and flood notice is a voluntary use form and may be used once posted on the agency's website. The seller's temporary residential lease and buyer's temporary residential lease will also be available for voluntary use once posted until January 5th, 2026, when their use becomes mandatory.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, moving along. Agenda item 23 is discussion and possible action to adopt amendments to and a new rule as well in Chapter 537. Again, the specific sections are listed in your materials. So as I mentioned earlier, the Broker Lawyer Committee met. They reviewed the proposed changes and as well as the public comments. But after discussion, the committee recommended that due to the public comments received, as well as some potential need for additional changes, the proposed changes to the rules and contract forms should be withdrawn at this time. Therefore, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to withdraw the amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 537 and the forms adopted by reference from the Texas Register.
So moved.
Second over here.
Second.
All right. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. And agenda item 4 is the last of our rules up for possible adoption. It's discussion and possible adoption to adopt amendments to 543.5 forms and 543.13. These both have to do with timeshares. So the proposed amendments to 543.5 are made as a result of the Realm project. This includes removal of references to most of the forms listed in that rule, while the consent to service of process form adopted by reference is being updated with a new title to differentiate it from other consent forms. It also contains some terminology changes. The amendments to 543.13 establish a reinstatement process already contemplated in the timeshare fee rule for consistency. One comment was received. The executive committee recommended no changes. Therefore, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the commission to submit for adoptions amendments to 22 TAC Chapter 543 as presented to the Texas Register along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for adoption.
Commissioner Renee Harvey Lowe. Motion. Second? Second. First. Okay. Good. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, switching gears now, these are the rules for possible proposal. So these two rules here will, if you propose them today, would go out for public comment. We would receive feedback, and then the earliest they could be adopted, if they're adopted, would be the February meeting. So first up is agenda item 25. That's discussion and possible action to propose new rule 22 TAC 533.11, temporary suspension. You heard about this earlier from Commissioner Pena's executive committee report. But Texas law requires the commission to temporarily suspend a license when a license holder's continued practice would constitute a continuing threat to the public welfare. That's the language from the statute. This new rule is proposed to clarify the process as to when and how a temporary suspension is utilized and is recommended by the Commission's Enforcement Committee. As a result, the staff recommendation is to authorize staff on behalf of the Commission to submit proposed new rule 22 TAC 533.11 as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, discussion.
Question. Abby, on the top right of the proposed rule, it says provide the license holder with 3 days notice. So in theory, you could provide notice on Friday and be due on Monday, right? Could you add business days to that?
We could. We could. Right now, it's just calendar days.
Okay. I think it's probably appropriate to address it with business days. That's my opinion. Also, the part where it says on the following page, the panel order must recite the factual and legal basis for imminent peril. So when you look at what 1101.662 and 1102.408 of the Texas Occupations Code, it says the license holder's continued practice would constitute a continuing threat to public welfare, right? And so we throw in a different definition, which is imminent peril. I'm just trying to figure out what is, that sounds very, very extreme, imminent peril to me with respect to
I agree.
the ability to suspend somebody's license due to imminent peril.
Yeah, I think it's just supposed to reference back to the finding that's required by statute, but that's good feedback, and certainly a change we could make. I don't think it's a different finding or a different standard. I think it's just a reference back to that language, which uses imminent threat. So I think it's just kind of a summary of what that existing standard is.
Okay. In referencing back to what I was mentioning earlier, in situations, for example, if you take the case that we considered earlier this morning with respect to a person that was allowed to receive a license on a probationary status, right? And if you look at the amount of times that a licensee renews their licenses every other year, which is technically 2 years, right? And so if you look at if you'd follow, in this case, it happened that his probationary period had expired, and there was a few months in which he offended that he was not on probation. So technically, if he would have offended within the probationary period, and I know these are what-if situations, but at that point, I would have liked to see something in the rules that gives us the ability to add a temporary suspension when the inevitable is about to happen without having to go through due process, right? And I still hold that view with respect to pleading guilty to a felony because the inevitability is that it will result in somebody's license being either suspended or revoked, right? And so in this case, and similar others where we've seen that the passage of time, and we saw another case where because it was in federal court, the timing of the final appeal, it ultimately ended up, I mean, there was a pleading of guilty to a felony relating to a $4 million embezzlement, right? That ultimately that case ran for three years, and that licensee was able to practice real estate, right? And so when we're trying to define, what is a continuing threat to public welfare, to me, that's as pretty cut and dry as we can see it, right? And so, I wish we'd had some mechanism to allow us to have somebody stop practicing real estate when clearly we would not grant their license because of a felony or repeat felony offenses, right? Although we have to let them go through the entire process. In some instances, that process may take multiple years to be fully adjudicated after all the appeals have been exhausted, right? And so that's really what I'm trying to get, is that the definition of eminent,
The language from the statute.
where we say eminent peril and a threat and a continuing threat to public, to me, somebody that embezzles $4 million from a nonprofit, although not related to real estate, that's a threat to public welfare, in my opinion, right? And so I just wish this is a good rule that we should adopt at the very least, and the definitions of threat to public welfare should, in my opinion, be pushed a little bit here, if you allow me, because somebody that has a felony when it relates to theft, especially fraud, should, in my opinion, is a imminent threat to public welfare. So that's where I'm coming from. That in that case, that licensee was able to practice real estate for 3+ years, and that's.
Yeah, it's definitely not a quick process. I think what you're talking about is really outside the authority that we currently have in statute. That's something we can certainly look at, but the language of our current statute is somewhat limited to focused on activity that requires a license. And in fact, that's what this draft rule, you and I were talking about this earlier, but that's what this draft rule actually states, in that whenever staff is going to utilize this process, part of that language, it's in subsection B, says the credible evidence has to show that the license holder may continue to engage in conduct that may violate Chapter 1101 or 1102 or commission rules, and that the license holder's conduct involves current or recent activity requiring a license. So I think that's in line with the language of the statute. I certainly understand your comment, but I think that would be looking at a change in law.
I look at this as the license we revoked at the last meeting is the prime example of where this would come into case, because Commissioner Lerner, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you told us that she had done something like 50 more transactions while her case was being adjudicated.
99 this year alone.
Or 99. That is continuing peril to me. Like, that's the prime example of let's shut this down, go through the process, and we mitigate harm to the public. I don't know that I necessarily think that the one that we looked at just now is one that shows a continuing threat to the public.
By the way, Chance, because TREC doesn't have a way of notifying our MLSs, when her license was revoked, she was still doing business. I had to notify our MLS.
Awesome. Okay.
So,
Is that responsibility now on the MLSs?
so since I've been on this commission, HAR has been asking me to get a text file added to the data feed that they're given for a date timestamp of when a license, because they run it every night, and it still hasn't been done. So I think that's very necessary. But going back to what Commissioner Pena said, I know in the past we've discussed what public welfare means, and some of it and us interpret it differently than staff interprets it. I think there needs to become a good interpretation of what it is so we can move forward with this in a way that's going to protect the consumers.
At the end of the day, this is a good rule. I believe this rule reflects what statute has, but just gives us the more standing with respect to enforcing that. So all in all, I'm very pleased that we are putting this rule in place. It's just, again, the definition of threat to public welfare is where it's a very gray area, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm just, if you look at what 1101-652 grounds for suspension, it says a licensee enters a plea of guilty or nolo, right? And so in my interpretation of 652, grounds for suspension, I think would be mirrored in this rule, that a plea of guilty, in my opinion, is grounds for at the very least, a temporary suspension. It's not a full-blown suspension, but a temporary suspension until everything is, that way we don't have a 3-year gap.
Yeah, and I think, again, the problem, from my viewpoint, my counsel would be that would be outside of the scope of the current language. But I do understand your point. We can look at the statute. But I think given the authority we have currently, which, it does have that imminent threat to public welfare, but it's also got, continued practice is an imminent threat to to public welfare. So, that whole standard taken together, I think, does limit you to licensed activity. And that's what we see at other agencies as well. There are some agencies that have a little bit more flexibility in their statute, depending, especially in the medical field, where there's a little more flexibility. It's not necessarily tied to the licensed activity. It's a little bit broader. So that's something we could certainly look at. But currently, I think we're limited to the brokerage activity or the licensed activity.
I would like this to be added as a 2026 initiative, please, that further this conversation and look into this. And if statute changes are needed, then we need to move forward with that. And also, going back to the wrap back conversation, if wrap back is down, are we notified that it's down?
It's not as simple as being down. It's that we're not getting all of the records that we should be getting, and we don't know what we should be getting, so it's like proving a negative. We often can measure based on the number of pieces of information we're receiving compared to kind of a norm. And then sometimes it's just running more slowly than we expect it to. So we're getting information, but it's in a delayed manner. We've raised the issue to the governor's office, and this is really an issue between like the FBI and DPS and how they report to us. It is not unique to TREC. We're the receiver of information, and we don't get a whole lot of information about the ins and outs of how it's working for them. I think it's probably, to give them some credit, I think it's an incredibly complicated system to report this information to all of the entities that need it. But that's what I know.
Can it be run manually or no? It just has to come as a feed?
I mean, the wrap back program is intended to be a in real time reporting of criminal activity or history. So in that sense, it can't be manually run. The manual process of that would be receiving fingerprints and then running them.
Right.
Or at renewal, we manually ask for that. It's not actually manual, but we reach out and grab it instead of that information being sent to us, if that makes any sense.
And you can't do both? It has to be one or another? So like.
We do both. We have the rat-back system, which is intended, when it's working well, to be in real time. And then in renewals, we reach out and grab that information. That's the check and balance.
So there's no way, like at the end of a month, to run wrap back just to make sure everything had come across?
That's just not how that system works.
No, besides, there's a lot of records that it would take forever. There's a process for
We have
for
a whole
pooling
program.
information and
Yeah, we have then a separate program that takes what we get from RatPack to filter out what we need and what we don't need, because it's like getting a carload of information and all we need is the keys. So it's pretty I do not understand all the ins and outs. I know that it's very technical in nature, but I know that when we run that renewal, that's intended to be our check in case we didn't get what we needed in real time.
no, I would imagine that process of verifying is very complex because you got people with similar names.
Well, and then we also have the requirement in our rules for the license holder to report that new activity. So there's checks and balances all over the place. In the case that we saw today, that license holder failed on multiple levels.
Okay. So let's,
Well, all in all, it's a good rule, good work. Thank you for that. We really needed it.
okay. All righty. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, and the last possible proposed rule I have for you is Agenda Item 26. It's discussion and possible action to propose amendments to 535.214. You heard a little bit about this one earlier as well. The changes to this rule clarify that qualifying education has to be completed prior to beginning the Texas practicum, and that helps ensure that applicants have this foundational knowledge that can be applied to the practicum's required inspections. This change was recommended by the Inspector Committee. Therefore, the staff recommendation is to submit the proposed amendment to 22 TAC 535.214 as presented, along with any technical or non-substantive changes required for proposal to the Texas Register for publication and public comment.
Okay. We have a motion, a second, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now we're moving to, Agenda Item 29, which this is really just kind of a notice to let you know in February, we will be nominating candidates for Vice Chair and Secretary of the Commission. I'll just say this is voting for Vice Chair and Secretary by law. It takes place at February meeting. This just gives the commissioners an opportunity to begin thinking about it. So if you have names, then you can bring those on in February or sooner perhaps, but we'll vote on them in February. So, okay, great. Then, oh wow, now we're down to 31, which is discussion of possible actions regarding future agenda items. Okay, hearing none, we will move to 32, which is a discussion. These are the future meeting dates, basically. You'll see for 26, February 9th, 10th, if we need it, for a workshop. Happy to see we finally got off of the cycle where it was Valentine's Day. That was, Anyway, and then May 4th, location on that, this may be, it's Houston, okay. All right, now this is where we started, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I guess, which I thought was a good idea, moving the meeting, one meeting a year and alternating it around the 4 major areas. And so we've got Austin, San Antonio, Dallas-Fort Worth, and Houston as being areas where we could reach the most people. So Turns out this cycle is Houston, so my hometown, so happy to see you all there in May when we get to that point. So that's it for this meeting. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Yeah, there we go. All righty, thank you all very much.
And the workshop will be upstairs in 400A.
Yes.